Good Monday morning, everyone. How's it going? We've got some Seahawks stuff to talk about, and it is indeed about the stuff that a lot of people are really thinking about right now. That's right, we are talking about the COVID situation in LA and Seattle right now. We are talking about what might happen with this game tomorrow night. So, we've got 2 games today and then 2 games tomorrow. I think this is the first time in Seahawks franchise history they played a game on Tuesday. I'm not sure, but that makes sense to me. That's kind of interesting, I guess, or maybe it's infuriating. It depends on who you ask. I think actually most Seahawks fans would say it's infuriating. And now that we've had some time to digest all of this and some time to think about what it could all mean, and an opportunity to look at things a little more objectively, because obviously yesterday afternoon when we got word about how a few Seahawks players, including a couple of key contributors, were possibly going to miss the game because of positive COVID tests, people got angry. People started busting out the old NFL is rigged stuff, which I'm staying away from that for the moment, okay? I'm going to stay away from that for the moment, and I'm going to try to be as objective as I can again, because, look, yesterday definitely irritated me, but here are the facts. And Brady Henderson has some more information on this as well. He's just kind of going over the same things that I'm about to go over. But I want to make one thing very clear. If the Seahawks-Rams game was played yesterday afternoon, as it was originally scheduled, the only thing that wouldn't have happened for sure, that is going to happen because the game is moved, is Jalen Ramsey returning. Okay, DJ Reed would not have been allowed to play because he tested positive. That would have happened before the game, and he would not have been able to play in that game anyway. DJ Reed wouldn't have played. Travis Homer would not have played. Brandon Shell would not have played. All the guys we had test positive yesterday would not have been able to play in our game. They would have been found having tested positive before the game started. The only thing that actually would have been changed, because that also goes for all these Rams players. The Rams players who could have played in that Sunday game are going to be able to play on the Tuesday game, and the ones who would not have been able to, as of right now, as I make this video, as I upload this video to YouTube, cannot play. With the exception of Jalen Ramsey, and look, I know Jalen Ramsey's a big deal. I know he's the best corner in the league probably right now, or he's up there. He's really good. Not having him versus having him is a big deal. However, I don't think the NFL would stall a game by 2 days so Jalen Ramsey could play. I mean, you didn't see the league postpone the Packers-Chiefs game so Aaron Rodgers could play. So I don't. Sorry guys, I'm just not biting into the whole it's us against the world stuff right now. It's annoying to see where this could be headed, but where it is as of now, as far as I know, is not really different from where it would have been on Sunday. As of now, the Rams are still in a relatively bad state, and we are in the same state we would have been in had the game stayed on Sunday. So it's not happened yet. And before I get into the next part of this video, I want to say another thing. What I'm about to get into here has nothing to do with the Seahawks making the playoffs or me being mad that the NFL is hurting our playoff chances. As far as I'm concerned, our playoff chances kind of died last night when the Saints beat the Buccaneers. We needed that one. We didn't get it. I think that we have our, in all likelihood, we'll keep an eye on the Saints. They still could lose some games that they should otherwise win because they have Taysom Hill at quarterback. But if they win 2 of their last 3, it's really hard to imagine us managing to squeeze into the playoff picture. So I'm not even thinking about this team making the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, if the Seahawks win out, they go 9-8. A 9-8 record does not and should not guarantee you a playoff spot. If you wanted to make the playoffs, then you should have won another game or two earlier in the year, okay? Most of the teams that have a good shot at making the playoffs right now have beaten the Seahawks on the field. The Packers have beaten us. The Rams have beaten us. The Cardinals have beaten us. The football team has beaten us. The Saints have beaten us. These teams that we're trying to race to the postseason, most of them have beaten us. The only one we've beaten really would be the 49ers. And they're doing so much better than us in all non-Seahawk 49er games that they've managed to overcome that. And they're probably going to finish this season with a better record than us by several games. So that's not what this is about. This isn't screwing us out of our rightful playoff berth. 9-8 teams are guaranteed nothing, and they shouldn't be guaranteed anything. Period. No, none of that for me. This is just about general consistency. This situation, as of right now, is still within reason. I want to make that clear. If the Seahawks play tomorrow night without DJ Reed, Brandon Shell, who, by the way, was probably going to miss the game anyway, Travis Homer, and Kerry Hyder, that's well within reason. None of those guys are super-duper stars. DJ Reed's having a great season. I think Kerry Hyder's an okay player. I'm not bashing any of those guys. And Brandon Shell's okay too, but again, he probably wasn't going to play anyway. So those are the kinds of injuries that you would expect a good team to be able to overcome. Those are the kinds of missing players that a good team should be able to find a way to deal with in a game when they have time to prepare for not having those players. So as of right now, I get it. But what I'm really asking here is, what if this gets a lot worse? What if the Seahawks have the decimated roster by tomorrow night? We're probably going to learn a little more later today about who the new positive tests are in Seattle. And based on how this thing works and based on how it's happened with other teams, we're probably going to be seeing quite a few more positive tests from the Seahawks roster. We may end up losing a really important player. Now, we have a chance to get back Tyler Lockett, which is huge because Lockett's been one of our best players this year. But who knows what we end up losing? You could lose Rashad Penny, and then you literally don't have a running back except for the currently not healthy Adrian Peterson. You could lose Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks and have nothing at linebacker. You could lose Russell Wilson. You could lose DK Metcalf. You could lose Geno Smith too, and then you're playing Penny Hart at quarterback. I don't know. Who's the emergency quarterback anymore? It used to be Cam Chancellor. Can we get Cam Chancellor back to play quarterback? That'd be fun. Just let him play quarterback, just play flag football for a game, say nobody's allowed to hit him. Let's just get this over with. I don't know. This stuff is on the table. Teams that have gotten the Omicron variant, it spreads quickly on their roster. Teams don't seem to have very much luck containing this thing. So I fully expect later today us to learn about a slew of additional positive tests. And meanwhile, because the Rams' little situation in their facility has already started to peak, with them now getting Ramsey back and having the opportunity to get guys like Havenstein and Higbee and Darrell Henderson. They might already have Darrell Henderson back, I'm not sure. But they have the opportunity to start getting their roster back, while all we're probably going to do over the next couple days is lose our roster. If that happens, because it's very reasonable that it does, my question is, what will happen and what should happen? Again, nothing to do with me wanting to make the playoffs. As far as I'm concerned, talking about the playoffs right now as a Seahawks fan is, it's silly. It's really gotten silly at this point. We need so many things to fall our way on top of winning out against teams that are much better than us based off what we've seen so far. What we need to keep in focus here is that if the NFL decides to delay the game for the benefit of the Rams, but won't do the same for the Seahawks in the exact same circumstance, then all you can really say about that is legitimately unfair. That is unfair. If we end up having to play with half a roster or all of our star players out of commission because of COVID, whereas the Rams got to have their game delayed because they would have faced that exact scenario, that is bullcrap. It is. And if that happens, then every single Seahawks fan in the world will be well within their right to complain all they want to for the next 500 years about how that is a bunch of bull. That would be crap. And we would definitely have some very sturdy legs to stand on here. So I was thinking about this yesterday as it was becoming clear that this could be where we are headed. What should the NFL do? We know they can't really postpone the game because we're almost done with the season. There isn't going to be a window to move the game to. And they need this result because this game may end up deciding who wins the NFC West between the Rams and the Cardinals. So they can't move the game. I don't think they can forfeit a game, like I did insinuate in a previous video that they should make the Rams forfeit because it's their fault that we had to move the game in the first place. But the NFL's not about forfeiting a game. That's a lot of money they're giving away. They don't want to not put a game on the field when they have one scheduled. They want that game to be played one way or the other. So that's not an option. So that doesn't really leave you with a whole lot of possibilities, right? Like at that point, what can you do other than just shrug your shoulders and tell them to play the game? I can only really think of two options, and they're both going to be extremely hard to pull off. One, because we don't really have a lot of time left. And the second, just because I think a lot of teams would complain about that. And it would be very difficult to determine what the objective value of basically punting on a game like this would be. But let's try to figure this out. So let's say Tuesday night comes around, the Seahawks have like 25 plus players positive with COVID. They can't play. And then the Rams, they have most of their guys back. The Rams are good to go. One thing you could do is say, okay, if you test positive but you're asymptomatic and vaccinated, you can play. The NFL has already talked about in recent days about possibly allowing that because Omicron is a variant of COVID that is easier to catch, but also much more benign. It's basically like, it's not too different from the cold. It's a lot less severe than prior iterations of Corona, apparently. So they could just say, okay, if you have it, you can play. That's fine. As long as you're vaccinated and asymptomatic, you can play. And the only danger, based off what I understand, there would be unvaccinated players. However, I believe both teams are 100% vaccinated in terms of the players, and I think the coaching staff as well. The problem with that idea would be the sideline workers, the people who use the cameras, the referees, maybe even not necessarily fans that sit by the tunnels, because I think that you can't get into the Rams' current stadium without being vaccinated, so maybe that would be fine. But that would be the main issue. The people who work for like the network that's filming the game, that kind of stuff. Okay, that would be the obstacle to that idea. Because I don't think any of the players would be an obstacle. So maybe you would have to arrange a circumstance where everybody who's on or around the sideline for that game is vaccinated. But that strikes me as one possible solution. Now, we've got like, what, 30 hours, 33 hours or so before kickoff. If they've already got some unvaccinated people scheduled to work that game, it might be hard to move it around and get somebody else. But that strikes me as possible if everybody around that stadium tomorrow night, everyone planning to be around that field tomorrow night, is vaccinated. But even though the NFL said they were considering doing that, adapting their COVID protocol to allow people with Omicron to play if they're vaccinated and asymptomatic, I don't think it would happen that quickly. I don't know how realistic that is. So That would be the easiest way, right? That would be understandable. That would be sensible, but I don't know if it's going to happen that quickly. This is something we might see happening closer to the playoffs. The only other thing I can think of, and we had one person in chat yesterday suggest this. It was actually a Michael Centalonza. What if, in exchange for forcing the Seahawks to play a game without a real chance at winning because their roster is decimated by COVID, in exchange for that, because we didn't do anything wrong, just like the Rams didn't do anything wrong, what if the league gave us an extra draft pick? Now, before I go any further into that, I don't know how likely that is. It doesn't sound very likely. Quite frankly, it sounds a little unbelievable. And frankly, even if they did do it, how could you determine what the right value of the pick is? Is it a third-round pick? Is it a sixth-round pick? Is it a fifth-round pick? So I'm not saying this is likely. However, just to have a little bit of fun, just to do a thought experiment, if the NFL makes us play this game with a decimated roster while the Rams get their guys back, and from the outside looking in, it looks for all the world like the Rams are getting a massive, massive favor from the league and the Seahawks are just being told, suck it up. If the league said, we'll give you an extra draft pick in the upcoming draft to make up for it, what would that draft pick need to be for you to feel like that's a worthwhile bargain? For you to not feel like this league is not even worth our time? I think that's an interesting thought. I don't know what it would be for me. I would probably be pretty happy with like a third-round pick, like a compensatory third-round pick type thing. I mean, the league does give out compensatory picks, so it's not like they never do things like this. It's not like they never consider solutions like this. They've taken away picks from teams for breaking the rules, so if the NFL is going to break the rules in a way that hurts us, how about it? I mean, this is already a lost season anyway. We can win out and still have a very, very forgettable chance of making the playoffs. So would you take a pretty much guaranteed L in exchange for like a third-round pick, fourth-round pick? How low could you go before you go, okay, that's good enough for me? And at what point would you go, nah, I'd rather actually have a real chance at winning this game, thank you very much, because we didn't do anything wrong? So that's just kind of a fun game you can play in the comments. I just can't see the NFL doing that. That would be the NFL in some way, shape, or form admitting that they did something wrong. And they're not big on that. And they don't have to do anything, I don't think. They're the NFL. They don't answer to anybody except themselves. So if they don't have to do it, I don't know why they would. And I'm going to wrap this up by saying, as I insinuated in my video yesterday, if this is the way this goes, and it looks like it's headed that way right now from my perspective, where the Seahawks have half a roster of positive tests that can't play, while the Rams get everything or almost everything in place for the Tuesday game, we have a huge, huge grievance. And the league is going to have to at least try to explain why they did it this way. And I already said, I understand rescheduling. I thought that was a reasonable solution to the problem. But rescheduling opened yourself up to this possibility. Now what are you going to do? Now what happens? Is it because we don't really have a shot at the playoffs and the Rams are going to make the playoffs? If it's that, then come out and say it. Just say we don't care about the Seahawks because they suck this year. I'm going to call foul on that. I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute here. I know we're not good, but at this moment we are technically not dead, so what the hell? But if this goes this way, no joke, I want to see this team do something to express their displeasure on the field against the Rams. I want to see them do nothing but take knees the whole game and then sit down on defense. Let Cooper Kupp have 3,000 receiving yards in one game. Make a mockery of the NFL. Or have your entire coaching staff coach the whole game with no pants on. I don't care what it is. If this is the way this ends up going and the league tells us to suck it up, Do something to let them know that we think this is crap and we're going to retaliate. Let me know what you guys think down below. See you guys later. Go Hawks.